This is video 1 of 8. Fall colors from LaFollette to Pigeon Forge. We began today's trip. It's the 2nd of November 2018. As you can see from this parking lot, the colors are starting to be at the peak. It's Friday, the 2nd of November 2018. The colors are not at their peak today, but this weekend coming up, everybody says that they will probably be at the max. This is the only day that I could choose for that trip, so that's why we're doing it on a Friday, the 2nd of November 2018. This is video 1 of 8. As we progress on the trip, we do run into some rain. When we got over into Pigeon Forge, we ran into a lot of rain. I have the GoPro on suction cups on the front of the window, but when I do that, I can't use my windshield wipers. As long as the rain was sprinkles, it wasn't a problem. But as you'll see on video 8, when we end this trip in Pigeon Forge, it was raining a lot. My intention really was to go over to Maggie Valley, North Carolina, but the Smokies, you could tell the rain and fog was covering the Smoky Mountains. My original plan was to go across on 441 into Cherokee, North Carolina, and then in Cherokee, where the Blue Ridge Parkway begins, to get on the Blue Ridge Parkway and take the Maggie Valley exit. But due to inclement weather, it was impossible to do that. As you'll see on video 8, I had to pull over because I couldn't use my windshield wipers and the weather was getting bad. We decided to find a restaurant to eat, and I told my wife, she was with me, I told her when we came out of the restaurant, if it looked like the weather had cleared up, we would go back to Pigeon Forge, where we left off, and continue our trip across the Smokies to Maggie Valley, North Carolina. The GoPro that I'm using, a lot of this stuff I'm reiterating. If you've watched my other videos, you've heard me speak before. And on this first video, I'm going to bring everybody up to date on how I do these. The SD card that I have in this GoPro is 64 gig. That 64 gig hard drive will record high-definition video for approximately 4.5 hours. So I would have had a lot of room to record in high definition the complete trip from LaFollette to Maggie Valley, North Carolina. But due to the weather, this video will end in Pigeon Forge. but I'll show the complete trip. I'm not going to edit anything out because there's nothing in the video that needs to be edited out. Another thing I'd like to mention, if you have a GoPro or if you're planning on purchasing one, there's a function to where if you take an SD card, you can put it into a loop. And in other words, let's say this SD card that I have, the 64 gig SD card, will run for 4.5 hours. If I put it on continuous loop, when it got to the end, it would go back to the beginning and start overwriting what I did, which means that at any time you can have a 4.5 hour span of video in your automobile. If you've been on YouTube a lot, in Russia, people over there, probably for insurance purposes, everybody has a camera on their dashboard. And you can watch people going down a road like this, and all of a sudden you'll see somebody come completely across the road and wreck. And those videos are mesmerizing when you watch them. And I imagine that's what they do. They take a camera and put an SD card in a loop, and it will run 4.5 hours. So if you're on the road quite a bit, you could put that SD card and let it run, and anything that would happen, you would have, you would capture it. But the way I'm doing the SD card in this GoPro is I'm having it to go, and if I did record for 4.5 hours, when it came to the end, it would stop. You've probably heard me mention before that the SD card is mind-boggling. When you consider the SD card that goes into one of these GoPros is about the half the size of a postage stamp. Can you imagine capturing 4.5 hours of high-definition video on something that small? On a YouTube video, because the algorithms will catch certain words and wonder, what's this guy talking about? And I'm talking about technology and the algorithms. That's why they're able to do all this stuff. We continue. We're on 25W. Rather than go on the interstate, I use the back roads on this video. This used to be the route to Knoxville, 25W. We'll go through Rocky Top, which used to be Coal Creek, and then it was Lake City, and then it became Rocky Top. Then we'll go through Clinton. From Clinton, we'll remain on 25W. We'll go on Clinton Highway, and I think it's Merchants. We'll turn left on Merchants, and I can't remember the name of the road, but it's immaterial because it's just a short portion. We'll get on Central Avenue and go into Knoxville, and then we'll go from Central Avenue to Broadway, which is Highway 441. 441 begins in Lake City or Rocky Top, and 441 goes across Norris Dam. Then while we're on 441, when we're in Knoxville, after we get off of Central Avenue, we'll be on Henley Street for a short period of time. We'll go across the Henley Street Bridge, and then we'll be on 441, which is Chapman Highway in Knoxville. And 441 Chapman Highway will take us to Sevierville. When we get into Sevierville, we'll cut right after we go across the bridge, go across the Little Pigeon River into Pigeon Forge. And when it starts to rain a lot, that's where we'll end our trip. As I said before, we have 8 videos in this series. This is one of 8. I did this video the other day, but I was under the impression that I had 6 videos and I had 8. So I had to reconfigure what I was doing. But these videos will go from one to the other. You can watch one of them, 2 of them, or whatever. I'm not too satisfied with music on these videos. That's the reason I decided to do a dialogue, or jabber as I call it, on these videos. You can always turn the sound off if you get tired of listening to me. This is Vasper. As we continue on the trip, I'll try to give you as much information as I can where we're at. We're getting ready to go under the Norfolk Southern Railroad. A lot of people that go through here think this is CSX. It is not. CSX and Norfolk Southern come within a few feet of each other in Rocky Top. Down here, when we go across the bridge, we'll be crossing the CSX. And as soon as we bear to the right on the curve, you'll see a railroad track to the left. That is Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern goes into Lake City. We'll go under the Norfolk Southern one other time. As we go across the CSX, it circles around that hillside and goes across Interstate 75. So when you go to Knoxville and you're on Interstate 75 and you go under a railroad, you're going under the CSX. Up there on the hill is the Norfolk Southern. Near Lake City, or Rocky Top, or Coal Creek, whatever you want to call it, we'll go under the Norfolk Southern. And then the Norfolk Southern goes underneath Interstate 75, and the 2 major railroads, the Norfolk Southern and the CSX, come within 15 or 20 feet of each other, right in the center of Rocky Top. I have always thought that anybody that decided to open a factory up in this part of the country, A&S Steel used to be located in that gray building to the right. But if you had a business that depended on rail traffic, what better place could you build a factory than in this area where you have two major railroads coming into the community? There's not a lot of small towns that can boast that. We only have about a minute and 30 seconds to go on this video. I'm going to try to keep track of it until I can stop jabbering before it ends. We're on our way to Pigeon Forge. This trip was made to show the fall colors. Although, to show nothing but fall colors, it would have been great if I could have gone over to the Smokies today, but that just was not possible. There's so many businesses located on this highway, but if you look, you can see some beautiful fall colors. This will be the only video, these 8 will be the only videos I do in 2018 as far as I'm concerned right now, showing the fall colors. It just so happened I really didn't think it was going to rain today, and we didn't get any rain in this part. Now we're going under the Norfolk Southern. But as we get close to Knoxville, we run into rain. Well, this is video 1 of 8. The next video will be 2 of 8.